On was Adam Roberts' second book, published in 2001. I read it quite recently and I was struck by some similarities, both structurally and thematically, with Christopher Priest's 1974 classic, Inverted World. So let's start at the beginning with the opening lines. Both books tell us immediately that something is very different about the world contained within. Inverted World begins thus. I had reached the age of 650 miles. What, we wonder, can be going on so that age is measured in distance? Those scant 11 words imply motion of something, and further they imply that distance travelled is significant enough to measure age by, the very passing of time. Time and distance give us velocity, speed, the rate of travel, a key element of the story. It's like the whole plot is packed into that one sentence, ready to unfurl, to be rehydrated upon uttering like some quantum Fibonacci sequence. It's an intriguing opening line, a siren signal should Dorothy require it, that we are not in Kansas anymore. We are in the realm of science fiction. Adam Roberts' On employs a similar opening gambit. On Ty's 8th birthday, one of the family goats fell off the world. It's another short, punchy sentence that carries some freight. We're introduced to the protagonist. We get the impression that goats are significant, but most of all, wait, what? It fell off the world? And again, we know straight away that we are in a strange environment, a realm with different rules, different topography, a more perpendicular perspective. Both books have a youthful protagonist on the verge of manhood. In Inverted World, Hellwood Man is about to be inducted into the guild as an apprentice, the world of work for which he's been prepared his whole childhood. As it says in the book, a moment of excitement and apprehension, a concentration into a few minutes of all that my life had been until then. And we know from the opening line of On that Ty is 8. But in another early signal, another paradigm shift, a subversion of our expectations, we soon find that he's on the cusp of adulthood. His beard is coming through. He's interested in girls and they in him. How can an 8-year-old be an adolescent man? We get some clues, some breadcrumbs to follow as the story unfolds. Early in Inverted World, Hellwood Man is exposed to a much bigger world than the one he knows, when as part of his guild induction he's taken outside for the first time to a viewing platform on the edge of the City of Earth. It's a dizzying moment for him, triggering many questions for him and for us. A similar abrupt change in perspective happens to Ty as he channels his inner goat and also falls off the world. Falling, he loses consciousness and lands, damaged but alive, in the Empire, a much richer and more sophisticated land than the village that he's known from birth, who knows how far up the wall. He doesn't speak the language, he looks different, he's smaller, weaker, malnourished in comparison. He might expect to be dealt with harshly, except that his survival is viewed as an omen, a sign of good fortune, and he is to be a mascot of sorts. This sudden exposure to a broader, quite different world is where I see the parallel to the Priest book. Both On and Inverted World seem to operate with fundamental differences in the local laws of physics, a divergence from what we know as normal. In Inverted World, strange things happen if you range too far forward ahead of the slowly lumbering city, and similarly if you lag too far behind. Time and space are not what they should be. As it says on the back of the book, it's a planet of infinite size in a universe of finite bounds. There's a memorable section where Hellwood and a colleague are escorting 2 or 3 girls back to their homes out in the countryside, and as they get further and further behind the City of Earth, the girls, previously long and lithe in the body, over the course of a couple of days of travel become shorter, fatter, flatter, the effect accelerating as they get further away, all relative to Hellwood, who retains his usual dimensions. It is very odd. On employs a different device, but with similarly confusing effects. In Ty's world, the sun rises from the bottom of the world and sets at the top. And I found I almost had to orient my head on the side to imagine the geography, the topography of a sheer vertical world. Inducted into the kite flyers, through Ty we encounter another weirdness called the pause, an effect felt at about 1,000 metres up, or rather out from the surface, where some kind of physical effect exists that prevents anything from passing beyond. It's not clear why, or at least not at first. I found both books similarly discombobulating. I felt off balance, off kilter, unsure of what was going on, which I imagine was part of the dastardly intent of both authors. The world building in both books is excellent, with both employing some lovely prose to provoke our inner eye, our imagination. Both gradually reveal more about their respective worlds, and we learn as the protagonist learns, experience as they experience. Both books contain a hidden truth, a twist in the tale. Both appear to be set elsewhere, not an earthly domain. How could they be with such strange properties? And in both cases, the truth is revealed to us and to the protagonists, to their confusion and perhaps our relief. Both books are seeded with hints and clues about what might be coming, clues that seem obvious in retrospect, but are just the latest passing oddness as you read for the first time. Both books have a similar root cause, in fact, the index reason for the current state of play. A hubris of the distant past, a mistake has set them on a different course. And I can say no more without substantial spoilers, but suffice to say that both are in the same ballpark, although with startlingly different, if similarly dramatic, effects. Thematically speaking, precariousness runs through each book, I think. In On, life itself is precarious, figuratively and literally. Ty's fellow villagers are slowly starving and typically die young. It's a hard-scrabble life. And to add insult to injury, any false step, a dizzy spell, a jostling or a deliberate shove, and it's all over, literally over the edge. Humanity is clinging on for dear life, as is the unpleasant wildlife, which is not above picking off humans when it gets the chance. In one memorably gruesome scene, one of Ty's comrades is eaten alive by a giant bug. We are left under no illusion that this is a difficult world in which to live. Hellwood and his fellow inhabitants of the city of Earth are also constantly under the cosh, under the threat of disaster. The city must be moved, it must stay within the reach of the optimum, or infinity will take its toll, crushing them, squeezing them, stretching them, or something. It's never completely clear what the result would be. The whole city and its guilds are organised to prioritise making sure that this never happens, but they are struggling to keep their population sufficiently large to staff the guilds. The mechanics are different, but the result is the same. Life in both books is on a knife edge. Inverted World ends abruptly, with Hellwood unable to accept what his eyes and others are telling him, so ingrained is his belief system. On also ends abruptly, arguably even more so, with Ty encountering an enemy, or are they, having escaped them previously. In both books, we're left to ponder what happens next, wanting to know more, to experience more with the protagonist. On came in for some criticism at the time of publishing for fizzling out and then ending abruptly. We get to the end of the book, but not to the end of the story, I felt. In his defence, Robert says that he couldn't imagine it ending any other way. I wasn't sure how to take that. Was that the only ending he could come up with? Or there were a number of other options and this was the one that worked the best? And anyway, who am I to judge? Well, okay then, I will. I didn't like the ending of On. I think it felt unresolved. And it's a shame, as up to that point, the book was largely great. While On has merit and is enjoyable on its own terms, it isn't without flaws. And on the whole, I think Inverted World is the better book. It's better written, perhaps, and a more coherent story with a bigger and more surprising twist. In another nice link, Adam Roberts has said that Christopher Priest has been a huge influence on his own writing over the last 25 years, so it's not surprising to find that On has some similarities to Inverted World, to the point of being a homage, I think. Adam Roberts has a new book out in a couple of months' time, and I understand that it will be dedicated to Christopher Priest. Have you read both of these books? Did you feel a connection between the two? Do let me know in the comments. And as always, thank you for watching, and until next time, goodbye for now.